Okay, there we go. How's everyone doing tonight? Give me 1 second. We should be good. There might be some technical difficulties here because I'm living in a new place. This is the third apartment that I'm living in as of this stream. I have been living in Buffalo for like a whole year now, and in that year I've had to move to 3 different apartments, and I'm hoping this one is the one that I stick with for a while. It's a nice spot. I can't complain much. I got more room here compared to the ones I was at before. But I'm not here to complain about that. We're here to play a really, really awesome mod. Now this, I'm pretty sure all the Devil May Cry fans can tell you this is one of those mods that a lot of people were looking forward to. And I had some people on Discord tell me that this is something I should really try. It's funny that a lot of people come to me telling me I should really give this a try. Because I'm mainly a Bayonetta and Wonderful 101 player. I don't really consider myself a strong Devil May Cry player. I will say I am familiar with the combat of Devil May Cry, just enough that I'm able to pull off decent things. Like, you're never gonna see me do stuff like what players such as Chaser Tech and Redgrave Keo can pull off. Obviously, I will never reach the same wavelength as players like Dongari as well. I don't think anyone can, really. He's like on a whole different level. But I have been playing the franchise for about a good 5 years, I want to say. 5 years, because I am still relatively new to the Devil May Cry franchise, but for 5 years, I feel like I've gotten somewhere. And I know at some point in the future, I want to make content for Devil May Cry, you know, like a combo video for 3. I already made a combo video for Devil May Cry 5, but to be perfectly honest, I'm not entirely happy with the way that video came out, because it feels very bare bones compared to some of the other ones out there, especially since that video takes place mostly in the training room. And I think for a good combo video to really look good, it has to be in places that's not in the training room, you know, where you're not just labbing hours and hours and hours trying to get the right combo. When you're playing the main game and just pulling it off through improvised style, it's probably a lot more impressive to watch. Now, forgive me, I am just adjusting the camera to make sure that things are good here. It's been a while since I've done a stream, and because, you know, I've had to set up everything in this room, there's a lot of things that are a little misplaced, so I do apologize ahead of time for... I apologize for all the little crazy things that might happen, you know. Hey, Drazer! Buenas, Senaro, qué bueno que estás streamando de nuevo. Estoy feliz que estoy haciendo esto de nuevo. Ojalá que pueda hacer más de esto. Como lo que estaba diciendo a toda la gente aquí, yo me he tenido que mudar en 3 diferentes apartamentos entre este año que he estado aquí en Nueva York. Ha sido un dolor de cabeza, pero ya estoy tranquilo donde estoy yo. So yeah. Let's get started with Crimson. Now, I did briefly play Crimson for a while, and what I've experienced so far is really freaking good. I like it. I like it a lot. But for this stream, I feel like I should do a new run. Just start a clean run, and you know, and see how far I go with this stream, and see if I can make it to the end of the game. So yeah, we're gonna start a new data. Oh yeah, for that I could just hit new game. So yeah. And there's definitely a lot of good stuff about this mod that makes it so fun to play. There's just so much more flexibility in your movement now. They implemented inertia, which is probably the most impressive thing about this mod, because Devil May Cry 3 never really had inertia, so to speak. I think it may have some form of inertia, but it was never really on the same wavelength as Devil May Cry 4. And so what the modders did for this game was they worked hard to try to implement an inertia system that sort of resembles close to what Devil May Cry 4 does. And that's actually what this mod entails too. This mod is designed to feel closer to Devil May Cry 4, so players that love forming combos in that game will feel more at ease playing 3. So it feels like a nice bridge while also having much more options for players to mess around with, Let's get started. Now, I have played Devil May Cry 3 before, and I do play from time to time in my spare time, so I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get through this game without a problem.
You've heard of it, haven't you?
But,
Sparta.
I might mess up here and there, so forgive me for that. And also, since we've all know Devil May Cry 3 like the back of our hands, I'll be skipping the story. Oop. Yeah, let's skip that. We know what a red orb is. What I like about this game is also, or the mod I should say, is you don't need to be mashing buttons anymore for shooting and for some other attacks. You can hold the button now, and that makes it so much better. Because I usually tire myself out whenever I'm mashing, so just holding the button makes things a lot better. Although out of habit, I might still mash. There we go. Now, of course, since this is a new game, I don't really have all the fancy schmancy moves yet. But I think that by the time we get to the third mission, I should be able to do some more decent combos. Also, I really love how they made it where the customization menu is the actual Crimson menu. And the way they added this in was really clever, since if you were to start from scratch, and because there's a style switcher on, they added this feature where you don't necessarily have to level up your styles the way you typically do when playing Devil May Cry 3. They added this feature where you could just buy your styles, kind of in a similar fashion like Devil May Cry 4. Like I said, this is supposed to be like the bridge between Devil May Cry 3 and Devil May Cry 4, and it's a pretty natural inclusion if all things considered. Hey Prometheus, how's it going, buddy? Let's see. I definitely want to get Swordmaster first. Swordmaster and Trickster, I think, are the two levels I want to get first. But definitely I want that Stinger. Oops, wrong button. Ah, crud. There we go.
It's been nearly a year since we last.
Since we last what? You're not telling me everything, Dante. What's going on? Alright, let's see if there's anything I can afford right now. Nah, nothing yet. Such a slow start. Ah, come on. You know, I never gave any thought to the camera angles in 3 until I saw the free cam from the Crimson mod. You know, I love the free cam in DMC3 Crimson. Look, I love the free cam that we have in Crimson, but I definitely think there was a purpose to the camera that the original game had. Because it allowed you to see the scope of the vicinity, and the free cam sort of shows why sometimes having a camera in a 3D space like this can be kind of an issue, especially in enclosed spots. Like when you're inside the strip joint, like you could tell that the camera kind of struggles to get around. And what's also a problem is that since these levels were not really designed with free cam in mind, there's always a lot of moments where I'm fighting against these enemies and the camera will always get stuck somewhere, or maybe an object will obstruct the view, like what happens here. Because obviously this area here, you weren't supposed to be able to look around easily. But still, it is pretty cool, like, what they were able to accomplish with this free cam. And with the free cam, you can definitely see all the attention to detail that this game had to offer. So there's a little bit of a best of both worlds scenario here. And the good thing is, with this mod, you can always change it so that you can have it the old school way. I forgot, you can also hold a button while doing a stinger in order to do the million jab, or the million stab. Like you can see the no entry sign here, and it looks like Elvis. I like those little details. Makes you wonder if like if we were ever to get like an HD version of this game, and I'm not asking for a remastered because you know this game is really good. You don't really need a remaster or a remake. But if they did do a remaster, it would be interesting to see what these images actually look like in high quality form. Especially in this next spot where you see like posters of babes. Like I'll show you like these posters. Like you can see those there because obviously this is a strip joint. I keep thinking I could trick away in the air, but I can't. I have to buy the style. I can at least jump away from danger. There we go. Yeah, see, like with this free cam, you can definitely take a closer look at what the strip joint is supposed to look like. See these close-up of the jukeboxes. And obviously it's all in super low quality because the camera was never meant to be this close to all the objects. But you can tell what it's supposed to be. So you can see all these ladies posing. It would be a really cool Easter egg if this game were to get remastered, they redraw the posters so they look like other babes from other Capcom franchises. Like this one, well, it looks remarkably similar to Bayonetta, but obviously they can't really include Bayonetta because she's not a Capcom character. But you could definitely have something like Chun-Li. Chun-Li would be freaking awesome to see here as an Easter egg, really. I mean, whatever it takes to see her officially naked. Yeah, no, Inertia Rainstorm is crazy in this game. I absolutely love that they implemented that. I can't pull it off correctly until I have like certain abilities unlocked. So for now, I have to force myself to do it by jumping forward off of an enemy in order to get that inertia going. But later on, you'll be able to do all the classic moves like full house into inertia, just like in Devil May Cry 4. Ah, crud. I royal guarded by accident. I did not mean to do that. Oh no! No! Not the move I wanted to do! Damn it, Dante. Because of you wanting to be cool, I lost. Damn it. That pole always screws me with this secret mission. Yeah, no, it screws with me a lot too. Who'd have thunk a place in a strip joint could screw you over? I can do better than that. I was really close in that last round. Well, not the one that just happened, but you know what I mean. No, no, not again! Ah, you kidding me? God damn it. It's always that fucking pull. One more time. Oh yeah, I have the shotgun as well. Ah, the fact that they can hit through the wall. Well, it's not really a wall, it's more like a gated fence, but you know what I mean. Why is it that I was doing better and now I'm doing worse? Like, I was so close that last time. Oh yeah, no, my vacation was great. I had a great time in El Salvador. I'm a little disappointed that nowadays El Salvador is known for like bad things. I'm not gonna get political over here, but I all I want to say is I am disappointed that everyone ridicules El Salvador because it's known for its boot camps. Well, not boot camps, but you know, the prison camps. So when I was telling everyone that I was going to go on vacation, I was going to El Salvador, everyone suddenly started asking me, am I getting deported? No. Like, El Salvador is my country. That's where my family comes from. It's a small country. Well known for its pupusas and beautiful valleys. But now everyone just talks about its camp. It's prison camps. And I'm upset that that's all people really talk about. So I try not to really tell people I'm from El Salvador these days. Especially in this white neighborhood where people support Trump like he's a good person. And he's not. But, you know. I gotta do attacks that do damage. Because I realize now that just doing the jump cancel attacks isn't really doing as much damage. Oh, come on. Ugh, man. I want to tell this story to you guys. I don't get to share this kind of story with a lot of people because... How do I even say? I share this online, obviously, with people that agree with me on a lot of things. And I try not to say these things out loud because... my family, I should specifically say, my mom's boyfriend is very much a MAGA type of person, you know, and he's not a bad person. You know, he's honestly the best thing that has happened to my mom's life, because he's been extremely helpful with my mom and everything. And so I'll let him be. You know, but I just got to mention that when it comes to MAGA culture, it is so weird the kinds of people I run into. Because you guys know I used to live in Florida, and Florida is very much 100% a MAGA place. And I want to say it's almost similar here in Buffalo. In Buffalo, I know that there's more people that supported Kamala more than Trump, but there's still a lot of Trump supporters around here. And I remember going into the supermarket one day. I went walking into a supermarket, and there was this lady who was walking around with full Trump gear. I'm talking like the hat, the shirt, everything. And she was walking around very proudly about it. And her shirt said, "God bless Trump." And all I know is that the people who saw her were like congratulating her for such an incredible outfit that she was wearing. And I just couldn't believe it. But the thing is, I had to keep my mouth shut because she had her husband there with her. And her husband looked like the kind of guy who'd be holding a gun. And I'm a Hispanic dude. And if I do something wrong in public, it'll be the end of me. And I certainly don't want to cross any of the MAGA cult people, so I just have to keep my mouth shut. Kind of sucks, man. Kind of sucks. So that's it. No more politic talks. I really don't want to do that. Okay, I can definitely get Swordmaster level 2, but before I do, I want to see what can I actually buy that would help me out with this next fight. Trickster, oh no wait, Trickster level 2 I can't get. Well, Swordmaster level 2 it is. Alright, let's do it. Give me a second, I'll tell you. Oh, crud. I forgot how aggressive this guy was. One thing I really hate about this dog is that his attacks just come out of nowhere. And I don't mean stuff like that. Like the ice you can see when it comes because he summons those by growling. But he has certain attacks where he'll just like swipe at you and it's just like a frame 1 attack, and I just never see that happening. Oh, so you want to know the update on the combo video, right? You're referring to the Bayonetta collab. Don't worry, that's still happening. I'm going to put together a video. That's basically going to be the trailer for the next collab project. The reason I've taken a while, it's been taking a while for me to get it going, is because I have this idea that I want to do. Hold on, I need to move the camera. I don't know why, but there we go. I've had this idea brewing up in the back of my head. I'm trying to find somebody who can help me out with this, and I actually spoke to a couple of people about this. Something I've been wanting to do is make an animated introduction to the collab video. And I spoke with some animators, 3D animators, because the idea that I've had in my head is I want to do an animated introduction that's kind of like, you guys ever see the movie Deadpool? The first movie. You know how everything is in freeze frame and the camera is like rotating through the entire chaos? I wanted to do something like that. And I spoke to a few animators and they were willing to help me out, but the commission price was out of my range. And as much as I could pay for it, I could definitely pay for it if I wanted to. It's going to have to be scrapped because I need that money for other things. Since I live on my own, I have to use that money for important things. And I'm in the middle of trying to get my car registered. I brought this up a few times on Discord, but I'll bring it up here. I am living in Buffalo without a car. My dad offered to give me his car. He left his car with his title back in Florida. And so what I need to do is get car insurance, and then with that car insurance, take the title of the car, go to the DMV, fill it out, and get it registered. Now that sounds really easy on paper, but it has been everything but. And the reason for that is because finding affordable insurance has been very difficult. And I have it narrowed down to 2 companies. The one company that I am trying to get insurance with has not been playing nicely with me because they had this setup where you could go online, get your quota, fill it out, pay it out, boom, bam. And I did that. And then the insurance company sent me a message saying, we need more information from you. You can't do it online. We'll need you to send in your paper documents. And so I had no choice. I waited for them to send me an envelope because the way it works is they send you an envelope and you fill out all the questionnaires and then you send it back. So I got the envelope, I filled it out, I sent it back, and I got another envelope this week that is basically the same thing that they sent me the first time. So there must have been an error there because I called the company and I said, hey, I sent the mail in. Where is it? And then they told me, okay, it looks like you're interested. We're going to send you another envelope. No. I already sent you the envelope. What is going on? It's like, oh, well, we'll check our database and blah, blah, blah. And so they put me through customer service and I've been waiting for a long time for this. And I finally got to talk to someone and they told me that, yes, they do have my envelope. It's going to take another few weeks for them to review it. And then when they're done reviewing it, they'll give me a call so we can go forward with that. But if that takes too long, I'm just going to have to go with my second insurance option. And it's a little out of my price range. No, well, not so much it's outside of my price range, but more it's just going to be one of those where it's more expensive. So I'm going to have to buckle down and continue saving my money with where I'm at. I mean, I'm not really... like, what's that word I'm looking for? What's that phrase? I'm not living by paycheck. I do have decent money saved up and I do earn good money. But I know for a fact that once I get this car and once I get the insurance and once I get everything registered, that's another portion of my money that I have to put aside. And so commission works like the Bayonetta project had to be unfortunately scrapped. Now, Prometheus, I know you're asking about the GoFundMe. I thought of that. Here's the thing. Maybe it's because of my own pride or what have you, or maybe it's because I don't really have trust. I don't know if trust is the right word. More like I don't have confidence in my channel, but I don't think my YouTube channel or me personally, I don't have the kind of recognition that would warrant getting a GoFundMe set up. I wouldn't want people to put in money just for a little project that I try and do mainly for free, because I want this to be more of a community that people can come together and enjoy and not have to put down money to help me out. Besides, if I can't get that animation working, I do have a backup plan. And, you know, I did say this was going to be technically the last Bayonetta collab project, but I figured there's always room for another one in the future. And if I have the money for future videos, I'll re-explore the animated intro. But for now, I do have other ideas, so don't worry. Now, as for the actual collab project itself, be on the lookout sometime in the first week of June when I make the announcement video. And once that announcement video goes on, then you will see exactly what are the rules and when is the date for when you need to finish with submissions. And don't worry, like these collabs, it'll be the same thing like I did with the last other collabs. I usually start the project around June, and that gives me plenty of time all the way to December to release the video. The first project started in June 1st, and the video came out around December 24th. I remember that. So I think this gives players enough time to submit their stuff. I just need to put the word out there. And so, you know, once that trailer goes live, I would love for you guys to help me spread the word. Hey, Rapid Cola. Hey, you're just in time. Well, I'm enjoying the mod a lot. I'm just doing a fresh new run. So you're going to see me screw up a lot because I don't have all the good stuff right now. See what I mean? That swipe is so fast. Oh god. Okay, there we go. There we go. Of course not. Yeah, Cerberus. Fucking love this weapon. And one of the big improvements that they did in this mod is you could do this attack in the air now. Isn't that amazing? I love it. And this is a perfect weapon for getting your inertia going. Of course, it only works if you jump off of an enemy, since I don't have the double jump unlocked yet. I'm gonna go ahead and save. Just in case. This actually does some significant changes out of the compared to the DDMK. Now, mind you, I don't play much Devil May Cry 3, so I'm not an expert on this, but even I can tell that there are a lot of changes. The DDMK, well, the most I know about DDMK, I guess, is that it adds a style switcher along with a few other little extra changes, like making cancels a lot more accessible. Because I know, like, Devil May Cry 3, since it wasn't really designed with style switching in mind, you can't really cancel style switching. This is a problem that the Switch version has, where even though the Switch version of Devil May Cry 3 has official style switching, it's kind of on the clunky side, because you could style switch just like in Devil May Cry 4, but it's not a smooth style switching, because it feels like they didn't take into account the fact that players could probably switch around some moves and then cancel from certain styles. And that's what this mod actually works to fix, making it so that not only are all the styles able to work with each other, but it doesn't feel like it's overlapping one or another. It's very smooth when you move from one option to the other, and you can cancel all those abilities with the Royal Guard. Oh, well, Prometheus, don't worry. Even if it's not the final video, I always put my best effort into these collaboration videos. I will admit, though, that I have been slacking off with the collabs. Like, I don't think any of my collab videos will ever be as good as the first one I ever made, because that was the perfect lightning in a bottle moment, because so many people from the OG Bayonetta community came to work, or I should say help out with the video. Like Daedron appeared, Ursa appeared, Creative Handle appeared. You know, those people really helped shape out the video, along with all the other submitters, of course. But when the later collaborations came about, most of them decided not to return. And so it really is heavily dependent on the players and what they submit, because obviously what they submit is what I have to work with. And so I do my best to make their clip look as good as it does. You know, like there's only so much good editing I can do, you know? Let's see. Nothing I can buy yet. Let's go. Because this is, we have a full free cam view here, I kind of forget which door to go to. Ow, that wasn't very nice. If only I had my guitar. Ah. Oh my god, this camera. There we go. Not the most impressive kill, but whatever. Ah! I forgot about that hand. Don't tell me I gotta fight those creatures again. God, it really sucks not having everything on hand, because I know the right weapon to use against those dudes. Okay, thank goodness. I don't have to deal with those idiots.
Come on. Come on.
Oops. There we go. On the topic of DMC, do you have a favorite? 4. I love 4 a lot. I've actually gotten much better at 4 too. I've been meaning to stream DMC 4, just doing random Bloody Palace sessions like I usually do with Bayonetta and Angel Slayer sessions. So perhaps in the future I'll be able to do more DMC related streams like that. But yeah, 4 is my favorite because of the way you can link some of these attacks together. That's not to say that DMC 3 isn't good or anything, or I don't like 3. I absolutely love DMC 3, especially with the mods like this one, which really opens up the game a lot. But there's just something about 4 that I just find so much fun. Ah, camera. All right. If only there was a way to get up there. Ah, come on! I keep aiming at the wrong enemy. I will say, one thing about DMC3 that I forget is that enemies in this game are super aggressive compared to the enemies found in Devil May Cry 4. Yeah, 4 is very much the combo simulator game. For good reason, but at the same time I understand why it may not be many other players' favorite, even if it has some of the best combat out there. Because as good as Devil May Cry 4's combat is, the story, the campaign is just very lackluster. That's why most Devil May Cry 4 gameplay footage consists of players just messing around in the Bloody Palace. I forget you can hit the lightning back. Timing is a little tricky though. I forget how annoying this boss is. Like, what were they thinking when they designed this one boss where he's just like completely out of your range all the time? Especially in the early game when you only have 2 projectiles. And his weakness is the nunchakus for some reason. On a topic of remakes, do you have a dream remake for Bayo or DMC? To be honest, I don't actually desire a remaster or a remake for Bayonetta or Devil May Cry. I think both games are already really good as they are. I feel like the only reason why people want a remaster is more because of the trend of having a game like come back with super extra spiffy, shiny graphics and nothing else. I mean, yeah, you can have a remake that fixes problems, except there really isn't that much problems that Bayonetta has. Most of the problems that people have with Bayonetta are mostly superficial. Like, literally, the only thing I could think of that would be a very beneficial change for Bayonetta is making it where the arcade minigames of Bayonetta are their own chapters. That way you don't have to be wasting time playing that one chapter where you have to play the Afterburner stage to get to the John level or the John boss fight. Okay, yeah, remake Bayonetta 2, like, you all know why I don't like Bayonetta 2. But even then, Bayonetta 2 is a fine game as is. Like, I mean, let's be very honest here. PlatinumGames, if they had the chance to remake Bayonetta 2, they would not change the combat because the combat for Bayonetta 2 was deliberate. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't accidentally make it worse than 1. There was a clear intention in making Bayonetta 2 be a game that would be more accessible for players that are new to Bayonetta, which is why they made those changes the way they did. It's a shame that that was the mindset, but that's what they're going to stick with. That's why Bayonetta 3 feels like the best of both worlds, where it feels like it has the combat for the players that love the first game, while also having, I guess, the accessibility of the second game. Except 3 also is its own game entirely. And it's the kind of game that not many people vibe with. Because if you go to our Bayonetta, you know, the Reddit section on Bayonetta, and yes, I know it's Reddit, 90% of topics in that subreddit is people just complaining about how bad Bayonetta 3 is. If it's not the story, it's the gameplay. And it's become this crazy Bayonetta 3 hate circle jerk that I've come to despise. Because the one time I actually love a Bayonetta game, and it happens to be the one that everybody hates. I know that Bayonetta 3 is the black sheep of the franchise. I know it's the black sheep. I know it's not a perfect game. I know it has things that goes completely against what everyone loves about Bayonetta. But god damn it, I actually like Bayonetta 3. And if it were up to me, I'd say Bayonetta 3 is the one game that deserves a remake. Not to fix the story like everyone keeps saying. Like, that's the thing I hate about Reddit. Everyone keeps saying that Bayonetta 3 needs a remake so they can fix the story. But it's like, fixing the story would imply that PlatinumGames broke it. Or I should say, like, they deliberately broke it or what have you. But here's the thing. PlatinumGames are not going to fix the story because that was their intended story. That was 100% their intention. You can tell because when you look at the interviews and you look at the blogs and you look at the things that these developers say, they're pretty proud of the end results of Bayonetta 3. However, I do know for a fact that the one thing they're not proud of is the fact that Bayonetta 3 is held back by the hardware of the Switch. You know, and I have a small feeling that Bayonetta 3 might get an update so that it can run much better on the Switch too. Now, here's the thing. I want to bring this up because a lot of people keep telling me that Bayonetta 3 needs a patch for it to run 60 frames per second on Switch 2. And I actually don't think it needs a patch. Because I read the articles and I've seen the videos. And there's actually a really good video that I recommend you guys look up. There's this channel called Modern Vintage Gamer. And I highly recommend you watch this channel because it's a channel that's owned by this guy who's really good at programming games. He was also responsible for creating the software that allows for emulation, and which led to games like Gex and Croc getting ports. He talked about the Switch 2 hardware and what it actually does. And from what he was talking about is the Switch 2 runs Switch 1 games through an emulator. You know, it's not natively running Switch in 1 games. It's not natively running them. It's running it through a special proprietary emulator. And one of the things that the Nintendo staff members brought up is that when they ran Switch 1 games through this emulator, it naturally ran better on Switch 2. And by running better, I mean the stability of the frame rate was much more improved. Now, Bayonetta 3 is a game that runs up to 60 frames per second. It runs up to 60 frames per second, which means it's intended to be at 60 frames, but because of the hardware, it never really hits that point. You usually only see 30 frames per second gameplay, or even worse, 20 frames, 15 frames, whenever there's so much chaos on screen. I have a feeling that even without a patch, running Bayonetta 3 on Switch 2 will net you positive frame rate performance right out of the box. That's how I see it. Now, if they were to patch the game, the one thing they really should patch is increasing the resolution of the game, because the game runs at 900p with dynamic scaling, which means that whenever there's so much mess on screen, the dynamic scaling kicks in and it reduces the resolution below 900 so that the performance can keep going. And that's why Bayonetta 3 is such an ugly game, because whenever there is so much chaos going on, it is riddled with checkerboard dithering and resolution drop and frame rate drop, and it's just not a very pretty game to look at. So the benefit of Switch 2 would be that if the game is able to run just fine at 60 frames per second right out of the box, it's not going to need dynamic resolution because it's already running just fine. So the patch would be to remove the dynamic resolution, bump it up to 1080p or maybe even 4K if possible, and add anti-aliasing. And I think that would definitely help the game out a lot, tremendously. I definitely think that's what it needs more than anything else. Let's see, I'm reading the comments here. But Sloth is so shit. The problem with B2 is that the balancing was awful and didn't account for the direction PG wanted to take B2. The freestyle Bones he talked about doesn't mesh with the PP system. I mean, yeah, you're right. But the thing is, Bayonetta 2 was not designed to be a freestyle game. It's very much grounded in its combat. And that was a deliberate design point. I mean, you could definitely style in Bayonetta 2. I'm not saying it's impossible. There are really good combo videos. But it's clear that Bayonetta 2's direction was more a power thrill. That's what the director of the game wanted. To give players that power thrill. Where at the push of a button, you become very powerful and you destroy enemies just like that. And that's why everyone says, you know, the Umbran Climax is like Devil Trigger. Except not really. But you know what I mean. I hate going on these tangents. I can never talk and play at the same time. I don't know why. So I do apologize for these random moments of discussions. Yes! Trickster level 2! Finally, I can air dodge. And the game crashed. Yay! I love it when video games crash. I saved the game, right? Yeah, I did. Oh, thank goodness I saved it. Imagine if I didn't. That would have been a huge waste of time. Well, not really, because I do have a save file for my first run, which didn't get me that far. So don't worry. Hold on, I'm loading up the Crimson game right now. Here comes the Crimson mod. Okay. There we go. Shows up on screen. Make sure to buy that style again. There we go. There we go. Oh, I didn't notice. Hey, Chrysora. Thanks for catching the stream. I love this guy. Ah! Camera view sometimes does not work in my favor. There we go. Get out of here.
Oops.
Oh yeah, no, Devil May Cry is very different from Bayonetta. I don't blame you. Trust me, it took me a while to really get a hold of Devil May Cry in general. Like, I was telling people earlier in this stream that I was playing... I started Devil May Cry 5 years ago. And even after these years, I'm still nowhere as good as some of the pros out there. I will say, you know, some people have told me that my gameplay does look impressive in their eyes, so I guess I must be doing something right. But yeah, I still have a long way to go before I can get really good at this game. This camera. Of course, free cam wasn't really... This game wasn't designed with free cam in mind, so there's always going to be those little snags here and there. There we go. Now we just got to go find a door where I can put that in. Wait, it wasn't here. Which door was it? I'm trying to remember now. I always get lost in this segment. I remember now. Hold on. There we go. Stick the Vajura in there. That does not at all sound sexual. Okay, now we can go up that stairs. It's cool! There, much better. I have more mobility now. Just with Trickster level 2, I can already do a few more things. Ignoring PG Doom for a second, what are your hopes for in Ninja Gaiden 4? I'm not too familiar with the series, but it looks interesting so far. So, okay, because I feel like I'm in the middle of all this, right? Why am I like the sixth degree of Platinum Games at this point? So... not just Platinum Games, but also just action games in general, because I have played Ninja Gaiden, I have played Devil May Cry, and I have played Metal Gear CUHRAYZEE, and I have played Bayonetta, and all these games, so I kind of have a knowledge here. But, okay, so, here's my thing. Here's my take. I've discussed this with many hardcore Ninja Gaiden fans out there, and I completely understand where they're coming from with their distaste for Ninja Gaiden 4. Now, they don't hate what they've seen so far about Ninja Gaiden 4, but it definitely feels, and this is just based off the short footages that we're seeing on Twitter, it really feels like a game that's held back, because the thing you need to know about Ninja Gaiden, and I can tell you this from experience, Ninja Gaiden is a game designed to be balls to the wall difficult. It is meant to grab you by the balls and twist it hard. It is a very, very difficult game, but it's difficult with a purpose. It's a game designed to keep players on their toes. You know how games like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry and many action games that have come out after Ninja Gaiden has some sort of a forgiveness factor to them in certain small things. Like, let me give you an example. Bayonetta, specifically 1, because they didn't do this in 3 and 2. Bayonetta has a system where when enemies are off screen, they don't attack you. Believe it or not, they don't. Every time I bring this up, people tell me bullshit. Those enemies are very tough to deal with. They always attack off screen. And it's a little bit of yes, a little bit of no. Most enemies don't attack off screen. Specifically, Grace and Glory, Applause, Ardor, the Small Angel books, they don't attack you off screen. Joys and Kinship, they attack off screen. But everything else is fair game. So that's an example of the game being forgiving, because it's taking into account the experiences that other players have had before. And when I say that, I mean Ninja Gaiden itself, because in that game there is no such thing as forgiveness. Enemies do not hold back in that game. They don't attack one at a time like enemies in Bayonetta 1 and 2 do. They never take turns. They are all ganging up on you, especially when you play the game on the highest difficulty. The whole thing about Ninja Gaiden is extreme mobility. You need to be really good at being very mobile, and you need to be really good at acting on the spot, improvising. You know, you have to think like a ninja. You have to really be mobile. You need to be fast. You need to be precise to take these enemies down. It's not about being stylish. Now, you can be stylish in Ninja Gaiden. You can do these crazy air combos if you're good enough, but that's not the purpose of Ninja Gaiden. That has never been the design philosophy of Ninja Gaiden. It's not a game that's designed to feel satisfying and stylish, or I should say stylishly satisfying. It's more about being satisfying and being effectively good. And this is effectiveness done right. Bayonetta 2 is an example of effectiveness done wrong. Because that game tries to be kind of like Ninja Gaiden in the sense that you have to be really good with the system that it offers you, but it's also just very forgiving in and of itself. I'll get to that in a minute. But with Ninja Gaiden, the only thing it really does do that's forgiving is you're allowed to use items. You can use as many items as you want. You're not penalized for it. The catch is, on higher difficulty, items are much more scarce. The frequency of finding items to heal is reduced. Like, the chances of finding them is reduced, and the price for buying them in the shop is increased, making it much more precious for you to hold on to those items when you definitely need it the most. The thing about Bayonetta 2 is that it does have item forgiveness, but it's like you could get as much items as you want. And even if you don't have the halos to buy them, you could just make it yourself. You don't even need to waste halos to get the items. As long as you collect the ingredients, you'll make as much lollipops as you want free of charge. Use that so you could get a pure platinum very easily. You know, there's a severe lack of high risk, high reward gameplay in Bayonetta 2. Ninja Gaiden has the high risk, high reward factors. That's what makes Ninja Gaiden such a great game. And I played the first game, I played Ninja Gaiden Black, and I'm currently playing Ninja Gaiden 2, both the Black version and the OG version. And I can see why people don't like the Black remake, because it's very held back. When I played OG2 the first time, I was already overwhelmed because they threw a bunch of enemies at you right from the start, especially if you decide to go on hard mode right from the beginning. It's like playing Legendary Dark Knight mode in Devil May Cry 4. It does not hold back. It is unapologetically difficult, but it's difficult because it knows that its combat lets you get through it if you're good enough. That's what makes Ninja Gaiden so good. Now, the reason I bring that all up is because Ninja Gaiden 4 seems to be going in the opposite direction, where it's not about being extremely challenging. It's going into the philosophy that PlatinumGames is known more for, where it's about being stylish now. And you can tell that it is about being stylish because the combat that the new character has gives you a lot of verticality Because that's the other thing about Ninja Gaiden I should bring up. There's not really a lot of verticality options. You can launch enemies into the air, but you don't have moves that make enemies get relaunched into the air. Nor do you have a way to stay in the air. You don't have jump cancels. You don't have the enemy step. You know, like how when you jump off into an enemy. There is an enemy step in Ninja Gaiden, but it's only on enemies that are standing on the floor. You can't do it on an aerial enemy if you want to reset your jump count and stay in the air for a long time. That's not how Ninja Gaiden works. But that seems to be the direction that Ninja Gaiden 4 is going for. Not only do you have enemy step, but you also have attacks that relaunch enemies while you're in the air. So there's definitely a focus on making Ninja Gaiden 4 be the stylish game. And that's why Ninja Gaiden fans are a little upset. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. Because, you know, Platinum Games has their way of designing games. And Team Ninja has their way of designing games. So when you have Platinum Games take over a Team Ninja game, it's gonna feel different. So Ninja Gaiden 4 is being made for Platinum Games fans, but not necessarily the Ninja Gaiden fans. Although, I feel like that's a little disingenuous because I have been watching the footage and I know the devs are doing their best to keep the Ninja Gaiden formula in there. And it is there. You got the typical Izuna drops. You got the kill moves. It's just that there's this guy online. You might know him. His name is Rang. He's the ultimate Ninja Gaiden player out there. He's a really big fan. He knows a lot about it. And he also happens to be a big fan of Metal Gear Rising. So he can already tell that this is a game that is taking a lot of elements from Metal Gear Rising. Like, it really is Metal Gear Rising, just disguised as Ninja Gaiden 4. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but he is very conflicted because he loves both games. But to have them both get meshed together, with Platinum Games being the large main bulk of the game's experience, kind of makes him feel indifferent because he's already noticing some of the big problems here. For example, Ninja Gaiden 4 has really big arenas. Why? You don't need massive arenas if you're just going to be fighting like scattered enemies here. It just makes getting from enemy to enemy a little bit more arduous, I guess. I wouldn't even use that word, but more... It feels like a slight waste of time. The only thing he can say is it probably may be because on higher difficulties, more enemies may spawn. But it's interesting because he brings this up because Metal Gear Rising had this exact same problem where you had arenas that were unnecessarily big for some reason. Now, they did work in some places, like in the first level where you're fighting against the giant Metal Gear and that song goes, "Rules of Nature!" Yeah, obviously that map has to be big to compensate for the Metal Gear. But when you're playing the rest of the game, it's still pretty spacious. So you spend a lot of time running from place to place. And then when you're fighting against enemy, you're running from one enemy to the next enemy. So it just feels like if the maps could be smaller, there wouldn't be that kind of downtime in between combat. You know what I mean? Let me see. So it makes sense. As someone who's played most of PG's work, NG4 looks pretty interesting to me. But for those who are familiar with Team Ninja's game, it's probably too different. I do wonder why Platinum Games is making NG4. I was half joking that Team Ninja was busy with their dating sim game, but maybe they are working on something else if they need PG to take the lead. Honestly, the way I see it, Team Ninja really wanted Ninja Gaiden 4 to be developed one way or another. And so I brought this up before, but Platinum Games is definitely one of those work for hire studios where they'll do whatever they want as long as the studio hires them to do something for them. And they've been doing that for a while. They were jumping from Sega to Konami to Nintendo to Square Enix. So just about any company that's willing to hire them, Platinum Games will jump on board to do whatever needs to be done. So it feels like Team Ninja tasked Platinum Games with making Ninja Gaiden 4 because, you know, everyone knows Platinum Games is well known for making really good, solid action games. Even when Platinum Games is delivering the bare minimum, it still is a great game. Although it's funny that I say that because Babylon's Fall was their bare minimum, and that was definitely a terrible game for many, many reasons. But whenever I say bare minimum, I think Legend of Korra and Transformers Devastation. The thing about those games is that you could tell those games were done in a short amount of time, and they pilfered from Bayonetta to get those games done. So the same thing is happening here, where for Ninja Gaiden 4, Platinum Games are pilfering from Metal Gear Rising to get this game done. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so. But it definitely feels like there's a lot to take in, especially if you're a hardcore Ninja Gaiden fan and you want a solid Ninja Gaiden experience. But what you're getting is a Platinum Games experience. And I know there are people out there that really hate the Platinum Games formula. And again, I don't blame them. I mean, hell, I myself am getting bored of the Platinum Games copy pasta formula. You know, the whole dial combo, dodge offset, dodge into a slow motion mechanic. That gets boring. You know, Bayonetta is a game that does that system right. And I want to say Transformers Devastation does it right too. But I feel like other games that adopt this formula feels like a very been there, done that kind of thing, and it doesn't really help make the game stand out. That's a problem that I have with Nier Automata. Nier Automata's combat is good, but it's one of those where it's like, I could be playing Bayonetta. You know what I mean? And that's not to say that Nier Automata is a bad game. It's not a bad game. It's a great game, but you're playing Nier Automata for the experience, for the, whoa, this game is blowing my mind kind of game. You know what I mean? That's why I find it so funny. I'm going on another tangent here. I apologize. I should be playing this game. But I want to bring this up because I had a very interesting discussion with a friend of mine online where he was saying that the reason Bayonetta 3 sold poorly was because of its story. And I do not agree with that. Because even if Bayonetta 3 had a solid story, there's no way it would have done any better than what it did. A large reason for Bayonetta 3's sales was because of the drama that was going on between Platinum Games and Helena Taylor. You know? This person was convinced that if Bayonetta 3 had a good storyline, it would have sold way more immensely. But my problem is that Platinum Games can never really catch a break when it comes to sales. Because like he was saying that Nier Automata is an example of why story is important because it helps with sales. But the thing about Nier Automata is that is a game that is on a completely different wavelength. It did sell well because of the story, but Nier Automata's story is designed to mess with your head. It's the kind of game that gets people going, dude, you gotta play this game because it'll mess with you. It'll break the fourth wall. It'll make you question your life, that sort of thing. That's what Nier Automata does. Bayonetta is not that kind of game. Nier Automata spreads its word around because of the experience that you're in for. The kind of game that's going to mess with your head. Meanwhile, Bayonetta, you sign up to play its awesome combat gameplay that just happens to have a pretty neat story attached to it. But unfortunately, Bayonetta 3's story, I will agree, is not good. At best, it's a bland story. At worst, it's the kind of story that really breaks the franchise. And it really did broke the fan base. Because damn, every time I go to Reddit, it's always people doom posting about how Bayonetta is doomed. And how, you know, oh no, the next Bayonetta game is going to feature Viola. And I hate Viola. And blah, 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 blah. And it's like... count your blessings, man. Not many games get to reach four titles in its franchise, you know. You know, people are moping about how we'll never get a Bayonetta 4. And meanwhile, I'm sitting in the back going, I want more Wonderful 101 games. How come, you know, like, I find it so funny. Look, I'm not going to call out names here, but I remember someone online said it's unfair that Bayonetta gets 4 games and Devil May Cry gets 6 games. And it's like they're two different franchises. You know, that's like saying it's unfair that Bayonetta gets 4 games and Resident Evil gets 12. It's completely unrelated. Yes, they're both action games, Bayonetta and Devil May Cry, but ultimately they are operated by different companies, different publishers. Is it unfair? Maybe, but it's still different. You know, and I just find it funny because Bayonetta is a franchise that has always been living on the edge. Bayonetta 1 didn't sell well, and yet somehow we got a Bayonetta 2. It took the effort of another studio, this being Nintendo, to get it off the ground, but we got a Bayonetta 2. And it sold so horribly because it was a Wii U exclusive. It only sold like 600,000 copies in its lifetime, but it was still enough for Nintendo to greenlight Bayonetta 3 after Kamiya went over to Nintendo asking if they're willing to make a new Bayonetta game. And this came after Kamiya went through a long depression with the cancellation of Scalebound. And lo and behold, we got a Bayonetta 3, you know? And even though Bayonetta 3 has its problems, we still got another Bayonetta game in the form of this really cutesy-wootsy puzzle exploration game. So it's like, I feel like Bayonetta fans are so ungrateful when they say it's unfair that we're never getting a Bayonetta 4. Or if we're not getting a Bayonetta 4, we are getting a Bayonetta 4, but it's going to suck because it's going to have this, it's going to have that. But it's like, god damn, man, you can't win here. And I know it's mostly because PlatinumGames shot themselves in the foot, but it's like, I would rather look at the positive side. The positive side here being, we got 4 Bayonetta games. Isn't that enough? Did nobody play CUHRAYZEE and the something? I always forget the name. Because that's a really solid game, but it seems like even CUHRAYZEE being attached to Bayonetta followed the Platinum curse, where nobody really cared about this one game because it's not the Bayonetta experience that people know and love. You know? I keep going on these tangents, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Where am I supposed to go? Oh yeah, I remember now. Hold on. I know that Bayonetta 3 is ultimately a poor excuse for a Bayonetta game, but I've said it before, I still think its combat is good. I certainly wouldn't want to see that go to waste. But it does make me think. It does make me think, you know, what could it have been if we had gotten Scalebound, you know? Because I feel like if we would have gotten Scalebound, we would have had a really awesome game that's kind of similar to what Bayonetta 3 does, but that means we would have never gotten a Bayonetta 3. Or if we did get a Bayonetta 3, it certainly wouldn't have the mechanics that Scalebound has. Because remember, a large reason for why Bayonetta 3 exists is because PlatinumGames already had their blueprints with Scalebound, but because Scalebound was canceled, they really wanted to take all those mechanics and put it somewhere. And that somewhere ended up being Bayonetta 3. I really wish we could have lived in a timeline where Scalebound actually came out. Because I firmly believe that if Microsoft gave PlatinumGames the time needed, the money needed, and had Microsoft never decided on canceling the game, I feel like Scalebound could have been that hit that people wanted. Because it was meant to be an Xbox exclusive, you know? That could have been the ace in the hole for Microsoft. But damn, Microsoft really shot themselves in the foot. To be a fly in those walls, man. The only person who knows why Scalebound was canceled is JP Kellums. And of course, he said it online. He's never going to reveal why. He's going to take that shit to his grave. Piece of cake. Cereza and the Lost Team, you didn't care for that game? It's unfortunate. I mean, I understand. You have your reasons. I still think it's a really good game. Like, it's a very different Bayonetta experience altogether. But yeah, I don't blame people for not wanting to get into that game. Why is it that every time I stream a game, I always have to go on a tangent about Bayonetta? I swear, I do apologize if you guys are just here to watch Devil May Cry, and I keep going back to Bayonetta. Okay, now, I always struggle with this bit, especially with this free camp, because I can't tell when the enemies are going to show up. Ah, crud. Of course I get pushed off. Wonderful. It definitely is a solid game. Like, it's probably the most polished PlatinumGames game to exist. Also, the only polished Bayonetta game. It's cool! There we go. Do I have enough for something? I don't think so. Well, I can get... No, I can't even get Server's Windmill. Oh well. Time to fight these dudes. I don't want to talk about the anime, but I do want to bring up one thing. Why did they give Ignis and Rudra Australian accent in that fucking Netflix anime show? Can someone answer me that? Oh, crud. Agni and Rudra are gonna return. Oh boy, more Australian funness. Okay, now comes this fight. It's always troubling trying to get them both to die at the same time, but I usually go with the strategy of taking one down real fast. And then I'll try to take down the other one as fast as I can, except he's a little harder. Ah, crap. Maybe we should go back to that strategy of trying to kill them both at the same time. Oh no. I hate that this is an unskippable cutscene. I'm sure the mod may have something for that, but I don't have time to look at that. There we go. Close enough. Now, I said I was going to skip cutscenes, but I love this. Just because I love these two dudes.
A very long time. For someone stronger than us. Someone who can control us. My name is Agni. And
My name is Rudra.
You shall take us with you. We could be a great help to you.
I just love these two. They're a bunch of goofballs.
Okay.
They just want to be used. That's all it is.
What is it? Name it.
No. Talking.
Fair enough. As you wish.
It's just such a cool cutscene.
Impressive.
Impressive.
No talking. Good.
Forced to live the rest of their life never having to speak, only to be used, and then never be used later on. I gotta save just in case game crashes. Alright, let's move on. I remember this one. It was the whole, let's see, baby, then man, then old man. So baby crawls on 4. Then man walks on 2 feet. And then old man walks with a cane. There we go. Now, because of the free cam, this actually makes this segment really easy because you can actually see the spears coming at you. I love that move. By the way, one thing they fixed with Igni and Rudra is it gives you infinite aerial combo now. And when you want to slam down, you just move the stick forward like a helm breaker. Like that. That is freaking awesome. I love that they fixed that. See, look. Infinite, and then Helmbreaker into a spin. Which lets you, you know, do crazy stuff like that. Such an awesome move. Now, I don't have enough tool set to be able to fight these enemies while they're in Devil Trigger mode. I'm gonna try. we go. I wish I could spend a little extra time pulling off cool combos against DT enemies. And as a matter of fact, maybe I can do a little practice here for a second. Let me bring up the screen. There we go. Let's see. Because I want to spawn an enemy in. And let's have Lust be that enemy. And before I actually summon it, let's see. There was a section here that allowed you to summon enemies. Where was it? I always forget where that is. Let me see. Come on. Where could it be? Oh, here we go. Enemy DT mode. Instant enemy DT. There we go. System. Wait, cheat and bug. Let's spawn an enemy. That wasn't really DT, was it? Let's see. Where was it? Man, I gotta spend a little more time learning to navigate this menu. See it. I guess I don't know. I'll have to figure that out later on. Because I wanted to like do a little cool combo here with what I currently have. Hey, Gooey Gandhi. It's so sad you gotta go to bed soon, but hey, you know, it's always good to get some rest. I haven't been getting much rest myself, so maybe like in a half hour I'll call it quits here so I can get a good night's sleep myself. But, you know, thanks for catching this stream. You know, making the effort to just come in and say hi is more than enough for me, you know? I don't consider myself anything significant, so anyone just saying hi makes me happy. So, thanks. Thanks a lot. And thanks to the current viewers here, too. I know I have currently 13 people watching. I know most of them are pretty quiet, so, hey, you know, thank you all. Prometheus asks, so anyone wants DMC6? Well, you know me, I'm always up for a new Devil May Cry game. I'm more surprised Capcom hasn't banked on the success of DMC5 to go for DMC6 immediately. I don't get Capcom, but I mean, to each their own, I suppose. There we go. I also find it interesting that the game even mentions if you use the cheat during that mission. This one's pretty easy. Let's see. Hello there, Sam Ratgrave. Thanks for catching the stream. Hope you're having a good time. There we go. I don't know what's up with these placements here. I know there's like a blue, one of the blue crystals around here. I just find it funny that they have to put it up there, you know? It's cool. I wonder too why Capcom's been so quiet on the matter considering 5 sales. I mean, I know Capcom is completely aware of the success of 5, and I know that fans have been, I know they must be aware that fans have been asking for it. Maybe they are working on another one. We just don't know. It also doesn't help that Itsuno left Capcom, and you know, he was definitely the brainchild behind 3 moving forward. I wouldn't mind it if they got Kamiya to direct the new Devil May Cry game. But knowing him, he'd probably want to remake 1 first, because he keeps going on and on about having to remake it. But it's like I said before, I don't think we really need a remake of Devil May Cry 1. Or any of the Devil May Cry games for that matter. You could argue and say maybe remake 4 so they could finish the game. But it's like you don't even need that because we already have 5. And 5 pretty much gives us the conclusion we needed from 4. Damn it. I always struggle trying to get this one. Come on. There we go. Oh yeah, no, I know people are gonna hate it. Mostly because Kamiya will probably make it a little bit more traditional, like what they did with 1. I wouldn't be against it, to be perfectly honest. Ouch. That wasn't very nice. I keep falling for their attacks. Oh yeah, I forget the mini games. Yeah, Kamiya is definitely going to be slipping in a lot of mini games if he ever gets around to making another Devil May Cry game. With blackjacks and hookers. It's cool, but it's missing the key. Wait, did you say it's cool? There we go. It's cool, but it's missing the key features I want from DDMK. Well, I know that this mod is built off of the DDMK. Maybe you can get in contact with the people and see what they have to say about it. And maybe they can implement it in a future update. Come on, we're almost there. We're almost there. Ah, force of habit.
You scared? Blast off! Blast off! Quick down! Blast off!
There we go. On a completely random note, do you expect a new Wonderful 101? No. Well, okay. This is what I expect. I can see Platinum Games making small supplemental stuff with Wonderful 101. Maybe a mobile gacha game, you know? I was actually talking about this with a group of my friends, but I actually wouldn't be against a mobile gacha Wonderful 101 game because Wonderful 101 already kind of looks like a gacha game, and the whole idea is you got to collect all the heroes so you can fill up your team with all 100 heroes. So it would be nice if you had a little mobile game where you're catching all the little superheroes until you form a big hero. That'd be a nice little thing to do. It wouldn't be the ideal Wonderful 101 game. I would love it to be a balls to the wall action game like the first game. But that's the route that I see Platinum Games going in with their Wonderful 101 stuff. The only way we could really get an amazing sequel to Wonderful 101, aside from the fact that we need Kamiya to come back and direct it, because I don't know anyone who could take over Kamiya's shoes for what he left behind for Wonderful 101. But you also need a big budget to get that game off the ground. Wonderful 101 exists because Nintendo gave Platinum Games all the free reign they had to make that one little game, and they knocked it out of the park with Nintendo's budget. But right now, considering Platinum Games doesn't exactly get a good budget from games unless it's one of those work for hire moments, like when Team Ninja hires them to make a new game, I don't think we'll be seeing any sort of Wonderful 101 sequel the way I would like it to. I would more believe that we might get a small little Wonderful 101 gacha game and that's it. Not because Platinum Games are too focused on making live service stuff, because like that's the thing everyone is all scared about. Like, ooh, the live service is the boogeyman here and it's gonna ruin everything. But it's like, I can go on a tangent about Platinum Games and live service, and I probably will end up doing that right now. But I hate that everyone keeps saying that. I really hate that everyone keeps saying that Babylon's Fall failed because of live service. When that's actually not the reason why it failed. It had a portion to it that did fail. Hold on a sec. I noticed that. By the way, I want to ask you guys. Do you guys think my voice is coming in a little too loudly? Because I'm looking at my Yeti and it kind of signals red whenever I speak out loud. So if I'm coming in a little too loud and the mic is breaking, let me know. But anyway, I really don't think live service was the main culprit for Babylon's Fall's failure. That's what everyone likes to scapegoat on. Like, oh, it failed because of live service and nothing else. But see, I was there from the very start when I saw the first trailer and how people reacted to it. From the very start, the biggest problem with Babylon's Fall is that it lacked identity. It didn't have a solid foundation in its identity. You know, you can say that Platinum Games can make a game with really bad graphics, and if it has bad graphics, it doesn't matter because the combat's going to be really good. And a really good example of that, funny enough, is Wonderful 101. The Wonderful 101 is not what I would call the most technologically advanced video game to ever exist. You look at the graphics and it's like something out of a Wii U. You know, who'da thunk, right? But Babylon's Fall that game really didn't have any identity going for it. Because when you look at Platinum Games, you don't just think action games. You think colorful worlds, amazing character designs, motivating story. You know, stuff like Metal Gear Rising. It's memorable because of the way the characters were designed. It's memorable because of the music it had going for it. It's memorable for the combat it offered. You look at Bayonetta and it's memorable because you're playing a witch that gets naked. Her hair has the power to summon giant monsters. It's super creative. You look at Wonderful 101, it's a very colorful, cutesy-wootsy game. It's beautiful. It's really a beautiful looking game, and it has an amazing story if you actually pay attention to it. Then you look at Babylon's Fall and it's like, where is the heart? Where did it go? Like, I'm not gonna say the game is heartless or soulless, but I will say it really did lack that platinum touch. And it's funny because every time I say that it lacks that touch, someone from behind me will just crawl up me and say, oh, it's because of the live service. Don't you get it? The bad graphics was because of live service. It's awful gameplays because of live service. And it's like, I don't believe that for a second, because we have live service games that are really fun and keep you attracted to it with this whole loop of always collecting stuff in order to keep playing and keep buying and whatnot. And I mean, I know people are going to hate live service, and I personally don't like live service myself, but I don't think live service is the main culprit for a game falling apart. That's what people like to blame it on when they don't want to play a game. But ultimately, if a game looks fun and it's enjoyable, the live service isn't really much of a problem. And actually, I did play Babylon's Fall when it came out, and ironically enough, even though people blame live service for being the problem, live service never actually got in the way of my experience. Never once did Babylon's Fall ever force me to pony up my credit card to buy stuff. At worst, you get a little announcement at the title screen saying, hey, we got new stuff in the market. Would you like to buy? And you don't need to do that. You could just go online and grind it out yourself, you know? But whenever I bring this up on Reddit, I get people telling me, that's the thing. It's boring and slow because of live service. There's no such thing as good gameplay in live service, because if it had good gameplay, people wouldn't buy stuff whatsoever. And it's like, I get what they're coming from, but it's funny because you could say the same thing. You like, to play the devil's advocate here, you can argue and say that if the game is so good, you don't need to buy anything from the market. But then you have people saying that they are willing to buy DLC for a game that they love so much. You know, it's funny how that works, right? I don't know, man. There's so much whataboutisms about this whole argument, but every time I mention this online, people immediately say, no, dude, it failed because of live service. I know, because I saw it from like 2 miles away, 10 miles away, you know. But most people who say it failed because of live service happen to be the people that didn't want to play it and blame it on live service. So the point I'm trying to get here, you know, with this discussion is that we've already been hearing rumors about Platinum Games wanting to work on a new live service game. And I'm willing to give Platinum Games the chance. I do think Platinum Games can make a solid live service game. They definitely can. I think a large issue for why Babylon's Fall's gameplay was terrible had a lot to do with Square Enix wanting to hold back Platinum Games. You see, I can't find a tweet anymore. I can't find this tweet anywhere. If you guys can find this tweet, please send it to me. But I swear, I saw this tweet, and I know I saved it, but I lost the picture. But Square Enix, they were hosting a lot of surveys for Babylon's Fall during its beta release. And I got to play the beta. And I filled out the survey. And I remember, as they were doing surveys and listening to the audience, Square Enix would also post patch notes for Babylon's Fall, and then explain why they made these changes. And one major change that made me realize that Square Enix was definitely the culprit behind holding back the game was when Square Enix announced that they had requested PlatinumGames to disable jump cancels. Think about that for a second. Jump cancel is a staple of a PlatinumGames formula. You know, jump canceling is a lot of things. And to explain it simply, a jump cancel is what it sounds like. You jump to cancel something. It could be an attack action. It could be mostly attack actions. Maybe it could be something like in a dodge. You could jump out of a dodge, that sort of thing, right? You see that in a lot of these PlatinumGames games. Nier Automata has jump canceling. Bayonetta has jump canceling. Even Wonderful 101 has jump canceling. Square Enix announced that they wanted jump canceling removed because they noticed that players were abusing the jump cancel tactic when they were fighting against bosses. And as a matter of fact, I was streaming the game and I discovered this myself. When you knock a boss down with a heavy hammer, you can immediately jump out of that in order to avoid the cooldown from the hammer. Because normally when you hit the floor with the hammer, you're stuck in this animation where you have to pick up the hammer again. But if you jump after you do the attack, you escape that cooldown. So players were able to discover this tactic where they were simply hitting on a boss with their hammers. Bah, bah, bah. And constantly jumping and attacking to keep the boss stun locked. When Square Enix found out about this, they issued that fix to PlatinumGames. They requested PlatinumGames to get rid of it because players were abusing the system to get through the boss super easily. Now, they say that the reason they wanted this patched out was because they wanted players to be able to have a tough fight against bosses. And for me, it's like, this is such a ass backwards idea. Like, if you want to make a boss fight difficult, and this being a game where you're playing in a team, why not just summon more enemies? You know, problem solved. That's how Bayonetta works. Bayonetta has this thing where you never fight against one enemy at a time. Every time an enemy spawns for the first time, it always has a doppelganger with it. This is to make sure that even though you can combo one enemy, you have to watch your back because the other enemy can sneak up and hit you from the back. It's actually, when you really think about it, Bayonetta has a very clever system in the way it handles players abusing juggle combos. Because this is something that I hate when it comes to people arguing with me. They tell me that, oh, I like Bayonetta 1 more than 2 because all you do in Bayonetta 1 is do mindless juggle combos against enemies that are just throw pillows. But it's like, it's more than that. There's obviously more to it than that. The thing that makes Bayonetta so good is that it designs, the enemy designs make it really cool because you're always crowded with angels. And even when you're able to do aerial combos, these are angels. They can fly up and hit you from the back. So the thing about Bayonetta is that while you can definitely do aerial combos on an enemy, like mindless juggle combos, if you're not aware of your surroundings, you can still get hit by enemies that can sneak up behind you because they just so happen to be angels that can fly. The funny thing is, I feel like this was an unintended thing with when they were designing angels, because I know the whole idea is that Bayonetta is supposed to fight against angels and make the angels the bad guy. But the fact that angels can fly lends itself to this really awesome idea of crowd control in order to make sure that players aren't just abusing air combos. That's what makes Bayonetta 1 so good. Because, yeah, you could do really cool combos, but you also have to be mindful of your surroundings. So there's never a dull moment when you're doing combos. That's what makes the game really fun when you're actually playing that campaign. You know, like, you watch those combo videos that I make, and yeah, those combo videos always just show me fighting one enemy. But that's more just a demonstration of what you can do in the game, and not just not just the status quo of what I believe an action game should be. You know what I mean? Because I don't want people to look at my combo videos and think this is what I want in every game. Because I remember someone telling me, like, someone suggested me this video game, telling me you're gonna like it because it has air combos. But it's like, that's not what I look for in video games. Just because it has air combos doesn't necessarily mean it's an instant win in my book. There's more to it than that. I love air combos in Bayonetta because there's so much that goes into the air combos, not just the concept of air combos, you know? I always go on these tangents, man. I do apologize. But yeah, Chrysora, yes, it was during the third beta test when Square Enix made the announcement. Let me see. There was something I needed to do here, but I completely forgot because I got sidetracked by my little discussions. Let's see. I needed to pick up something. Let's see. I know this was the key that activated the elevator. Oh yeah, that's right. Here we go. This thing. Siren Shriek. Yeah. That's the thing. After Babylon's Fall went offline, Square Enix deleted everything. Even the Discord group is gone. Which is funny because the Rumbleverse Discord, you know, the official Discord is still, well, quote unquote active. And by that I mean it the Discord still exists, but all you can do is just read all the previous messages along with everyone saying goodbye. With Babylon's Fall, no, Square Enix just deleted that shit. Like, not even they didn't even make it a little corner for people to just talk and shit. Hey, Stylesman! How's it going, buddy? Everything's well over here. I was complaining earlier about how, you know, I've had to move into 3 different apartments. But, you know, I'm doing great. You know, I'm actually in a good mood. Things are going well from my end. Yeah, I don't do much streams these days, but you know, I'm trying to fix that. I'm like trying to be more active, also preparing for the Bayonetta collab project, which will go live in around June. Ah, come on. So yeah, there's that, you know. Still rocking the beard. You know what's funny? Because I live on my own, I actually let this thing grow a lot. Like, dude, I didn't post pictures, but I swear, last year, around the Christmas season, I actually let my beard grow. Like, I was rocking a Viking beard because I was living on my own and it was freezing cold over here. And I was like, fuck it, let me just let my beard grow. And I did. It grew. Like, I had a long mustache and everything. And it's like, I liked it a lot, you know. Then when I flew to Miami to see my family, the first thing my mom says is, no, shave your beard. And I was fighting with her. Like, no, I live on my own. What do you want me to do? Like, I don't have to take orders from you. But like, mom was just getting very prissy because when we got together, you know, my mom wanted to take me to a really nice surprise party, but she refused to take me to the party if I didn't get a cut. So I decided to just shave it off. And then when I got back to Buffalo, I was like, well, I'm going to let it grow again. And here we are. I think I'm going around this the wrong way. No, 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 no. Ah. There we go. This mod is really good. I'm enjoying it because it gives me a lot more flexibility to pull off some cool combos. I mean, I wouldn't mind it if, like, ultimately, if they decide to make a Bayonetta 1 remastered, I'm all for it. But in my personal opinion, I don't really think we need a remastered. I don't think so, because Bayonetta 1's already a good game. You can argue and say, well, you know, remaster the game to fix these problems, but it's like, the problems to me are very minuscule compared to everything else the game has to offer. Besides, you know, I'm of the idea that, you know, you don't need to change the art when the art is already good to begin with. Just take out the minigames and we're good. Yeah, well, there's that, I guess. I said this earlier, but if we do remaster Bayonetta, then the best way to go about it is have the minigames be their own chapters. You know, split the Afterburner segment away from the John chapter and just make the John fight its own chapter. Problem solved. There you go. Like, okay, if you want to get rid of them, okay, fine. I guess maybe make it optional, but then why? If you make it optional, nobody was going to play it. And then the people who And then you're gonna have the completionist still complaining anyway, because obviously there's gonna have to be an achievement where you have to get the perfect score in the afterburner segments. Oh boy, are we getting some bots in here? Oh boy, I'll take care of that another time. Oh yeah, no, the camera is good. Although, since this game wasn't really designed with free cam in mind, there's always going to be moments where the camera gets stuck in certain places. It's still good, but I would recommend, you know, making it where one of the buttons should be dedicated to flipping back to the old school camera, if nothing else, so that you can get a good view of how the game was originally intended to be viewed as. Let's see. Okay, what shall I upgrade? Just the thought of playing B2, but with the weight, physics, and weapons of Bayonetta 1 is exciting. I also spoke with them half joking about making Demon Slaves possible in B1, and it's not that crazy anymore. So yeah, discounted prices. Let's see. I guess let's upgrade the revolver, and then I'll upgrade the jet stream. I think we're good. I know I could do better than this. Camera doesn't help here. Alright, let's try that again. Ah! I could do a lot better than that. I just gotta play a little bit more patiently.
Where's your motivation?
Ah! I couldn't jump. I know there's like a small downtime when you hit each other with the swords, but you definitely jump out of that. Again, it's that particular attack that I always fall for. I have to really break away from my bad habits. The funny thing is, like, I know I do so much better when I fight against Virgil. For some reason, whenever I stream games, I do so poorly. Alright, let's try this again. I would say those sense of nerves only overcome the more you stream. I guess they mostly overcome when I play a game that I'm more familiar with. And I don't actually play that much DMC3, unfortunately. But with this mod, I really do want to try to make a video. Like a really cool style video if I ever get around to it.
This may be fun. Where's your motivation?
Ah. Do you? I do. Wait. Out of curiosity, and I've seen the sentiment shared in the community, but do you feel like DMC5 is a fan service sort of game that didn't try to break new ground with the series? The way I see it, Devil May Cry 5 was definitely designed in a way to try to bring in a larger audience, while still trying to do something for its old school fan base. But there was definitely a direction with Devil May Cry 5 to try to bring in more people. You know, whether it be the really amazing graphics, the sexy characters, because let's be honest, Dante, Nero, Virgil, Trish, and Lady look hot as fuck. Hell, a lot of women were fangirling over V. You know, which makes me wonder, what am I doing wrong? Oh, come on. I thought I had the... Hold on. I don't know how to explain it. Ugh. Never mind. I thought I had the parry. Okay, I just gotta learn to time my parries with every attack. I forget he does... Hold on. There we go. There goes that. Oh no! This is... I mean, look, I know I joke. I'm well aware of the fact that I am a handsome guy. The biggest problem is more the fact that I'm just not a very confident person, and I need to break that and learn to just embrace who I really am. No! I swear I'm so much better than this. There we go. I'm feeling the groove. No! Damn it. I was definitely feeling the groove, but I still screwed it up. I think what's not helping is the camera, ironically enough. Because the way it works is like panning back so you can see both at the same time. But when Virgil like sneaks up behind me, I can barely be able to figure out what he's trying to do. Ah, that range. No, I see through your game now. No, damn it. Ah. Okay, so now I know when to time his 2-hit sword attack. Still gotta try to get around that uppercut that he does. That rising move. Mistimed that one. There we go. Let's just watch this cutscene while I take a break. The choreography of this game is really awesome. Oh yeah, no, the boss fights in this game are incredible. And yeah, like when it comes to the boss fights of Bayonetta, I've always said this before, but I think the boss fights are probably some of the worst aspects of Bayonetta combat-wise. In terms of the spectacle, they're incredible. Like the set pieces, the scenario, the stuff that goes on in the background, it's all great. But when it comes to the actual combat, it never feels good because in an effort to try to make the bosses look grand in scale, they usually have it where Bayonetta is this itty-bitty teeny-weeny ant walking all over her body, or walking all over the enemy's body to get to their weak spot on their head most of the time. It's either that or moments where it's like you're on a tiny little platform and the boss is like trying to punch her. You know, you see that very frequently in Bayonetta 2. Where it's always you standing in this one spot and you're always helpless, like you can't leave the platform, so you always have to dodge the enemy's punches, dodge that, and then attack the hand before they sort of like fall, and then they drop their hand for you to run on their hand and then hit the enemy's face, that sort of thing. I don't even think bosses are designed with freestyle in mind. I'd say Bayonetta 3 is the closest you could get to something like that, and even then, not as much. I really wish boss fights in Bayonetta were more like the boss fights in Devil May Cry, where it's just you're fighting an enemy that kind of feels like a typical enemy, just on a larger grand scale. As a matter of fact, Wonderful 101 did that beautifully. There's a boss fight in Wonderful 101 that goes by the name of General Lambo. He's like this big frog with a sword. And he's supposed to be like a boss. So you run into him while like at the end of a chapter and all that sort of thing. But when you make it to later parts of the game, you fight a clone of him called Anko, which is like a robotic frog who has the exact same properties as he does. But you could just juggle that boss if you're skilled enough to do it. Because the thing about Wonderful 101 is you juggle enemies by, you know, lifting an enemy up with an uppercut. But if you want to juggle a large enemy, you have to make large weapons to compensate for that. And it's just so good when you're able to juggle a boss. When you're able to fight a boss like you normally would with a regular enemy, I feel like that's when the game is fun. With Wonderful 101, the bosses have different rules of juggle properties. When you try to juggle an enemy in Wonderful 101, you have to stun them and then you can just use whatever you want. But if you want to juggle a large enemy, you have to do large weapons. And if you don't have the proper amount of battery to make it work, or if you don't know how to manage your battery, it is very difficult to juggle these bosses. But if you're skilled enough to build your battery while drawing large weapons, the combat becomes so cathartic. That's why I give Wonderful 101 so much praise, because it does so much things you don't really see in a lot of other Platinum Games games. Like, I definitely think its combat philosophy is great. And, you know, I know I'm going to go out on a limb for saying this, but I genuinely believe Wonderful 101's combat system is just as deep, if not equal, to Devil May Cry 4's combat system, because of the complexity and the depth behind being able to summon any weapon at any given moment. The thing that makes Wonderful 101 so unique is that it actually takes a simple system like weapon switching. It takes a simple system like weapon switching and making that a mechanic. Because here's the thing. Like, this will be my final note. I know I'm talking about something very different because this is a Devil May Cry stream, but I wanted to get this off my chest. But when it comes to the Wonderful 101, it manages to solve one of the action game's biggest obstacle, and that's weapon switching. Okay? When it comes to Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, Ninja Gaiden, Metal Gear Rising, what have you, all these games have some form of weapon switching. However, it is very difficult to make weapon switching intuitive, because how do you go about switching through weapons? How do you go about switching through weapons when you have a large list of weapons in your arsenal? Devil May Cry 4 tackles this by giving you a small amount of weapons for both sides of the field. 3 projectiles, 3 melee based. That works because it all combines within each other for you to form really great combos. You know, along with the style switching system. The style switching system in and of itself is also just incredible, because that style switching changes your guns from having one type of attack to 2 types of attacks. And same thing with your melee weapons, where you get your regular melees, but then with Swordmaster, you get an extra set of melee attacks to go with it. But the big problem has always been weapon switching. How do you make weapon switching easy when you have a character with a loaded amount of weapons? Bayonetta has this problem where it has a plethora of weapons, like easily into the tens of weapons. Bayonetta 1 has 10 weapons. Bayonetta 2 has, I think, 12. And I think Bayonetta 3 has a staggering amount of 15 weapons. 15 weapons! And it's crazy because you're only able to equip 2 at a time. That is, I think, horrendous. So when it comes to weapon switching, Devil May Cry goes about it in a very simple way. Just keep toggling through your weapon arsenal by tapping the same button. So you have your gun, you tap it once, you go to your shotgun, you tap it again, you go to Pandora. And same thing with your gun, or with your melee weapon, right? So then you have this interesting problem in Devil May Cry 5 where you can actually customize your weapon loadout, and you can just give Dante every single weapon in his arsenal. But then that also means that you're going to be spending a lot of time constantly mashing through the weapon button, the weapon switching button, to get to the weapon you want, which makes it very clunky when you want to just use these weapons in a smooth sequential combo. It ends up creating this issue where you can only really focus on 1, maybe 2 weapons at a time when you're trying to do these stylish combos against enemies. But that's why Wonderful 101 manages to create this really awesome thing where you are able to carry every single weapon in your arsenal, but to switch to that weapon, you have to draw the glyph to get the weapon you want. You don't have a weapon wheel. There's no weapon wheel. There's no weapon toggling. It's just a matter of drawing it out. Draw the shape, weapon comes out immediately. That solves so many problems, and it gives Wonderful 101 that edge when it comes to the creative liberty of crafting a really cool combo. This on top of the fact that you can also draw other weapons that become your backup. Like you can have your leader use your sword and then draw another sword, and then that sword will also be fighting along with you. So you can have up to 4 weapons doing this simultaneously. That's what gives Wonderful 101 its crazy depth. All the while, you can just switch around these weapons. As long as you're good at drawing, you can get these weapons out real fast, which has me wondering, why isn't there an action game where you have to do an input command to get a weapon you want at that moment? Because you know how in fighting games you do like these input commands, like quarter circle front to do the Hadouken, quarter circle back to do the spinning kick, so on and so forth. I feel like action games should tap into this idea where you have to do these input to get to the weapon you want. It's like inputting a code to get to a weapon quickly instead of just bringing up this wheel. Because I've never been a big fan of weapon wheels. I've never been a huge fan of weapon wheels because that kind of makes some combat feel a little cumbersome, because you have to remember where the weapons are positioned. And sometimes when you're in the heat of battle, sometimes it's not as easy to switch to the weapons. Games like Doom have a thing where the game will slow down so that you can get to your weapon of choice through the wheel. This is to help compensate for the fact that changing to that weapon can be cumbersome while you're in the middle of combat. I feel like, I don't know if there is an option to turn it off, to turn off the slow motion thing, but if there is, then I guess it's there because people are skilled enough to get to those weapon of choices. But still, the point I'm trying to bring up here is that I feel like Wonderful 101 deserves a little bit more respect because of the concept that it has, and that concept that it does, it pulls it off so well that I have no shame, I have no worriedness in saying that it's just as good as Devil May Cry 4 in its complexity. But ultimately, they are very different games. Ultimately, super different games. Wonderful 101 has its own method of weapon switching, just as Devil May Cry has its own method of weapon switching. And that's what makes these action games so great. I hate when people rank these action games in a certain way where they'll say, "Oh, Devil May Cry 4 is the standard of action games. If this game does not do what Devil May Cry 4 does, then it automatically sucks and it's low tier." And it's like, that's not fair. You're not giving the game its chance, because every action game is going to have some sort of obstacle to overcome. Putting aside the fact that we have these action indie games coming out where they're designed to sort of mimic something that already exists, it's very difficult for even AAA games these days to come up with a concept that really breaks what Devil May Cry 4 is able to accomplish, or I should say surmount to what Devil May Cry 4 accomplishes. So rather than trying to put a game at a high standard, it's more like saying we should really give these other games a chance because they have their own standard that makes that game cathartic. If every game was like Devil May Cry 4, then Devil May Cry 4 wouldn't stand out the way it does now. Yeah, I was actually talking about Ninja Gaiden 4 earlier. I was talking about how Ninja Gaiden 4 has this big issue where it's going against what we know and love about Ninja Gaiden, because it has all these PlatinumGames traits that in and of itself is good as a PlatinumGames game, but now we're having those PlatinumGames elements in a game that was never meant to have elements of PlatinumGames traits, I know there's people that are very upset about Ninja Gaiden 4. I know there are people that are very worried about how that game's going to turn out. And I personally am worried too. Like, speaking as an outsider to the Ninja Gaiden fan base, what I will say is that I feel their pain. I feel their pain because I go through that myself. I love Bayonetta 1 a lot. So to jump to Bayonetta 2, which made these changes that feel so odd, you know? Kind of makes it frustrating. Now, yes, I know that we're only judging this based on small 30-second footages that they've been posting on Twitter. And truth be told, I'm actually happy that they're doing that, because have you ever seen action games promote themselves like that? I wish we had more games that did that. Like, there's a new action game coming up. I keep forgetting the name. Hold on. I wrote the name down because I'm the kind of person that always forgets the name. But hold on. Give me a sec. I wrote it down to remind myself that I'm going to play this game when it comes out. Tides of Annihilation. I saw the trailer for that, and although that game has basically all the traits of other games, I still feel like it has something going for it that makes it really cool. And I'm looking forward to that game. That game's going to be... I think that game's going to be really, really fun. But yeah, let me see. Being an NG veteran, I would say NG looks very much like an NG thus far from the small clips we've seen. But what I was trying to say is, I hope Tides of Annihilation does the same kind of promotion that Ninja Gaiden 4 is doing, where they're just giving us supplements of action gameplay. It's so weird that not a lot of video games promote themselves like this. You think they would, you know, especially action games, but they don't. That's why I actually give praise to the Ninja Gaiden 4 team for showing off these cool gameplay footages. Just small 30-second intervals. Which is kind of funny, because now you have people that are just assuming that this is how the entire game is going to turn out. Because I see people saying, oh, look at those enemies that are just standing there waiting to be hit. But it's like, dude, it's meant to just show off what you're capable of, you know? Action game fans are very attentive. I remember Yosheska in one of her videos telling Ursa how she immediately picked up the differences between Bayonetta 1 and 2 from the trailer alone. That's crazy. Can I tell you guys a little secret? I wasn't into Bayonetta until Bayonetta 2 came out. I did play the first Bayonetta game when it first came out, but I wasn't good at that game. This was back when I was terrible at action games. I wasn't even into action games. I didn't even know what action games were. I simply bought Bayonetta because it was a Sega game. This was back when I was a Sega fanboy, and I still am. So I would always buy these Sega games to try to support Sega and tell people, hey, you know, there's more Sega games than just Sonic. This is when we had Residents of Fate and Bayonetta and Chrome Hounds, and there was another game that I forgot about. Escapes me right now, but it was a really cool game. It was from the Yakuza crew. It was a shooter game. It was kind of like Gears of War, but you fought against robots. I'm sure one of you guys will remember the name of the game. I was not into Bayonetta as much as I am now. When Bayonetta 2 came out, I just thought, damn, it's pretty cool that we're getting a sequel to a game that I played and I wasn't so good at. Let me go ahead and try it out. And when I played Bayonetta 2, I actually had fun with it. I didn't have any issues with the combat because this was at a time when I wasn't really into combat. It wasn't until the Wonderful 101 really opened my eyes to the world of action games, and it prompted me to go back to playing Bayonetta 1, and that's when I started noticing all the little small stuff, you know? Yes! Binary Domain, there you go. That's it. That's the one. God, that game is so fucking good. I highly recommend that game. If you ever get the chance, please play Binary Domain. It looks generic, you know, but damn, that game is fun. Like, balls to the wall fun. But yeah, I wasn't into Bayonetta as much as I am now. I wasn't into Bayonetta back then the way I am now. So I wasn't able to pick up on all these traits. So wow, I'm actually impressed that Yoshes caught on really fast. I started noticing the problems with Bayonetta 2 when I was working on my very first combo video for Bayonetta 1. When I finished making the combo video for Bayonetta 1, I decided, hey, let me go back to Bayonetta 2 and see what I can do. And then when I started trying to do the same tricks that I did in 1 with 2, that was when I noticed, wait, what the heck? It's not doing the thing I like to do. How come this doesn't happen? How come this doesn't work? And then that's when I realized, oh no, Bayonetta 2 has problems. How did I not see this? Oh no. I must share this with all the people online. And all the people online got really mad at me. They were telling me, no, I'm just a combo tryhard or something, you know? I'm not. Believe it or not, I'm open to playing any game, you know? It's not always just super crazy action combo games. I mean, that's like a part of the trait that I really love. But in general, I don't always look for super deep action games. Where am I going with this anyway? Anyway, it is getting late over here. It's 11:30. I'm not much of a night owl. And these past few days, I've actually not been able to sleep well. So I want to take a chance and just go to bed early tonight. So this was fun. I will continue with Devil May Cry 3 Crimson. I will continue with this stream. I think I will jump back into this game Sunday evening, because tomorrow I got big plans. I gotta go out and do a lot of errands, and the problem with living on my own without a car is that to do these errands, I have to plan so many things ahead of me. That includes the bus schedule and planning out the routes and figuring out what time I can be here, what time I can be there, and then figure out, you know, like how much stuff can I carry on me? Because I have a backpack that I always carry with me, and I always try to bring as much groceries as I can in one trip, and if not, well, I have to make 2 trips. And it's really funny. I should really bring up actually, no, I'm not going to bring this up, but let's just say sometimes I go on a long quest to find a particular ingredient for a food that I like to cook. Because something I should really share with you guys is that I like to cook a lot. Since I live on my own, you know, I've had to learn to cook. And I've been doing a lot of great meals. From the basic stuff like chicken and fish and all that stuff to some grandiose stuff. I've been making some really killer soup. And back in Florida, where I used to live, I always used to go to this meat shop, this deli, because they used to sell this kind of chorizo that is so good. We call it chorizo de abuelita, which translates to grandma's sausage. Now, when I moved to Buffalo, I did try to find a deli shop, you know, that may carry chorizo de abuelita. But I learned pretty quickly that chorizo de abuelita is not a very common thing. And I had to go online and figure out what chorizo de abuelita actually is. And I learned that the official term for this is dry cured Spanish style sausage. And my God, those are very difficult to come by. There is a supermarket that I used to go to here in Buffalo that used to stock up on a bunch of those. And I would buy those by the bundles. And unfortunately, I learned this month that my supermarket stopped carrying those. So now I'm on a mission to find another supermarket that may carry this dry cured chorizo. And if I find it, I will share with you guys the recipe of that soup I make, because it's a really killer soup. It's a black bean soup. Black bean soup boiled in itself with water, salt, oregano, onions, tomato, and chorizo de abuelita thrown in the mix. Cook that for 10 minutes, and it's the most delicious shit ever. Buy some queso fresco mexicano, throw it in there, like in small pieces, and it's like, mwah, such a delicious concoction. But I can't make that soup if I can't find any chorizo de abuelita. So yeah, I gotta find this. I am on a mission to find grandma's sausage. I need her sausage really badly. What is with me and these tangents? All right. Well, that's it for me. I talk too much. That's why I've said this before, but I should really make podcasts where it's just me talking shit all day. But yeah, I will be back to stream Devil May Cry 3 this Sunday, okay? So until then, I gotta get going. So I thank you all so much for sticking around and watching the stream. It's good to be back. I'm glad that I'm back here streaming comfortably like I normally do. And like I said, be on the lookout for the trailer for the next Bayonetta collab project. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I hope to make it a big project. We need to spread the word. Once the trailer is out, spread the word so we can try to get more people involved, you know? That's what I want. And I'm going to try to get in contact with some of the OG Bayonetta players to see if they're interested in submitting something. Maybe even some leftover footage. Oh, man. It's my biggest dream to try to get Yoshesk involved. Even if it's just one clip. I just want her to submit something because, I look up to her. Because, she's part of the reason why I've made a name for myself. And so I want to do it out of respect, but I also have to respect her boundaries because, she has her own reasons for not wanting to be part of the community. But, that's a whole different story. Whatever. I'm off, everyone. Thank you all for watching. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
I know that you'll be back.